of the Union address is drawing lots of attention, with some calling it a comeback for U.S. President Barack Obama. From the economy to the Supreme Court justice, he plowed right through all those issues that we've been talking about. Here to weigh in on Obama's speech is Gerald Celente from the Trends Research Institute. Hey there, Mr. Celente. Let's talk first about some of those things the president said last night about the economy. He admitted that he hated, and he used that word, hated, bailing out the banks, but it had to be done. What's your reaction to this?
Well, why did they have to bail out the big guys? You know, what they do is on one side of his mouth, he says how much he hates it, and on the other side, the banks are laughing all the way to the bank. And what did they do today? They just reappointed the biggest banker in the world, Ben Bernanke, who made it all possible. So it's just to appease the people, to make it seem like, oh, they're really getting tough on these guys. While, as I said, they're laughing all the way to the bank.
But, Mr. Celente, what the president said, and it's hard to dispute this, is that if he hadn't have bailed out the big guys, more businesses would have been lost. Fewer loans would be given than they have been. What's your response to this?
Well, few loans are being given already. The loans aren't going out there. And let's, again, look who they bailed out, AIG. Nobody knew what an AIG was in September of 2008. Bear Stearns, you know, just a brokerage firm, the Merrill Lynch mob. You know, come on, it's one after another. They just keep saying this over and over again until people believe it. You know, it's the old Hitler story. You tell the lie over and over again until the lie becomes the truth. There is absolutely no evidence that if any of these financial firms failed, the world would have collapsed. What would have happened is that capitalism would have worked the way it was supposed to, and that meant that the healthy banks, the smaller banks, the commercial banks, the banks that didn't gamble would have picked up the slack.
All right, well, let's stay on this topic of money. And you were mentioning before Ben Bernanke, the Fed chair. Right now, the Senate hearing, the decision on whether or not to reconfirm him for a second term, it's going on right now. Why do you say that this is a bad idea?
Well, he's the guy, I mean, you know, how could people be so irresponsible and to keep being put in the same positions to act more irresponsibly? I mean, this all happened under Bernanke. Look, go back to Bernanke, 2007, November. He's telling Congress there is no recession in sight. In December, they officially say we're in a recession. He's been off on everything. He's no genius. All they keep saying is, well, you know, he's a great mind of the Great Depression. He knows all about it. You know, that's like me saying I know how to fix Model T Fords. You just can't keep printing money. This isn't genius at work. All it is pumping money into the system to keep the big banks afloat.
Well, what's the solution then? I mean, a lot of people are concerned, even people who don't necessarily love having Ben Bernanke there. A lot of people are concerned if we don't keep him, that's going to be a disaster, whoever we bring in.
Somebody else will fill his spot. This guy dies tomorrow. The world's not going to change. So what is he? He's just a Fed chairman. He's only a front for the Federal Reserve System. What has to happen is that the system has to clean itself. It has to cleanse itself. We can't keep propping up failure. And that's what they do. Whether it's financial failure they prop up to keep it going, or a Bernanke failure to prop them up to keep it going. The only people that become emboldened by their failures and keep getting promoted higher and higher are politicians and these kind of people, these bureaucrats like Bernanke.
All right.
In real life, you can't get away with this stuff.
Let's switch gears for a moment to jobs. President Obama not only announced a plan to bring more of them, but compared this country to other countries to highlight what they're doing right and we're doing wrong. Take a listen.
You see, Washington has been telling us to wait for decades, even as the problems have grown worse. Meanwhile, China's not waiting to revamp its economy. Germany's not waiting. India's not waiting. These nations they're not standing still. These nations aren't playing for second place. They're putting more emphasis on math and science. They're rebuilding their infrastructure. They're making serious investments in clean energy because they want those jobs. Well, I do not accept second place for the United States of America.
All right, Mr. Celente, just wondering what you thought about that.
Yeah, this is like a coach at a pep rally or at halftime when the team is behind in the locker room. How could he compare what China's doing? China has $2.5 trillion in reserves. Yeah, they could afford to boost their economy. They're the #1 exporter in the world. Germany? Oh, yeah, try #2 exporter. Where's the United States? Oh, only $12 trillion in debt. These are the kind of lines you throw out to the people who don't know any better. And again, Obama's the perfect coach. This is nothing more than, as I said, a pep rally. You saw it with Pom-Pom Pelosi jumping up and down, cheering on the Congress to stand and rise and sit like seals. And Biden looked like a bobble doll, bobbing his head, yes, after every sentence that Obama spoke. No, this is just theater. That's all it is. You know, this saying that politics is the second oldest profession. All you had to do was watch last night's political theater. And by the way, it's not only Obama. They did it under Bush. They do it under Clinton. This is just to get the crowd riled up to make it seem like they're doing something.
All right. And speaking of riled up, that's what we always like to do with you. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Celente. That's Gerald Celente with the Trends Research Institute.